Evening, everyone. I'm Malcolm Thomas, and thank you all for joining us for our first Parent University for the 2021-2022 school year. We have some amazing presenters and beneficial resources lined up for you all tonight. But before we begin, I would like to introduce Mrs. Laura Perez, who has an announcement for our Spanish-speaking parents. Laura?
Thank you, Malcolm. Buenas tardes, padres. Bienvenidos a nuestra primera sesión de la Universidad de Padres. Para seguir la presentación en español, haga clic en el icono del globo que dice interpretación en la parte de abajo de la pantalla. Si se conecta desde un dispositivo móvil, haga clic en los 3 puntos en la parte de abajo para ubicar la opción de interpretación. Seleccione Spanish para escuchar el audio en español.
And now, thank you so much for that, Ms. Laura. Now we would like to move on to introduce our superintendent, Mr. Millard House II, with a special message for our parents.
Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to have you join the first Parent University session of the 21-22 school year. Tonight, we have our team sharing important information to help you successfully navigate this school year as we continue dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. You'll be learning more about our HISD Connect Parent Portal, how temporary online learning works, and available digital tools and resources to help you support your students at home. You're also going to be learning more about our support services in HISD. For our students, parents, such as our social emotional supports, our wraparound services, our homeless assistance services. You will have an opportunity to also learn more about our school choice program and its application process, as well as the timeline. I want to thank our community partner for joining us tonight to share information on how we can keep ourselves and those around us safe during the height of the pandemic. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you to all of our presenters. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you to Superintendent House and our leaders for your vision and guidance on the work that we do day in and day out. Our Parent University tonight will provide you with an opportunity to hear some of the great resources that we as a district have to offer. Our presenters include HISD's Instructional Technology Department, Special Education, Wraparound Services, Student Assistance, Homeless Education Office, School of Choice, and lastly, the Texas Children's Hospital. Before we begin, parents, there is a link and QR code on the screen that will take you to a form to sign in and show that you participated tonight. There is also a link in the Q&A. So either click on the link or take out your phone, open up your camera, and scan the QR code that's on the screen. They will both take you to fill out the form. Let's go ahead and get started with tonight's event. I now would like to introduce Mr. Adrian Acosta, Mr. Ken Boswell, Eric Getkin, and Mr. Raul Alanis from HISD's Instructional Technology Department. They will go over the Connect Parent Portal, temporary online learning, and some digital resources. Also, remember that there is a Q&A box. So please feel free to utilize that Q&A box so we can get your questions answered. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you. So first, as we get started, we're going to go over the HISD Parent Connect portal. Hi, my name is Adrian Acosta. I'm one of the directors of the Academic Instructional Technology team. So we understand that it's really important for you and your students to be on top of the grades and any other information that's pertaining to your students. As a result, HISD has established the HISD Connect Parent Portal. If we can go to the next slide. The Parent Connect portal is part of the student information system. What this means is this is basically where all the student enrollment, demographic information, grades, and online resources are available for the student and the parent. We are going to go over, first of all, how to create an account. Then Mr. Boswell will go and show you a demo of what it looks like inside, so you can learn how to at least navigate the basic components of the parent portal. So as we go on to the next slide, the first thing we want to do is presentation. Excuse us for a second, everyone. The presentation just left our view. Oh, thank you. So to get started, for those of you that are new to HISD or a parent who wants to establish their HISD Connect parent portal, please visit www.houstonisd.org/PSC. When you get there, you're going to see a section that looks like that's the image that you see on the screen. Click on the Create Account button. When you click on the Create Account button, you're going to get the following screen, which is on the next slide. You'll see your first name, last name, email, and a desired username and password. Again, it's really, really important that you actually establish the correct email. So double check twice, 3 times, however many times it takes to make sure your email address is accurate. This email address will be attached to this account, and any notifications that are being sent will be sent to that email address. The second part of the information that's going to be required, which is shown on the next slide, is going to be your student's information, your student's name, access ID, access password, and relationship. The student access ID and the access password for each student will be provided by the school. Again, the 2 pieces of information that will be provided by the school are going to be the access ID and the access password. So if you do not have them, please reach out to your campus to receive a copy of them. Having said that, when you go on to, can we go on to the next slide? When we go on to this, I'm going to have Mr. Boswell to go and provide us an overview once you log in. What does it look like? Ken?
All right, thank you very much, Adrian. Right now we're actually experiencing technical difficulty on our side with getting into that particular training site that we've got for that. So give us just a few minutes and we'll try to get that back up. But in the meantime, let me just talk to you real quick about the actual parent portal. So the parent portal is alive. Actually, it's live. It's available to you 24 hours, 7 days a week. I'm gonna, Eric, if you can share your screen, and I'll walk y'all through how to get there. So Eric, I'm gonna let you share your screen. And the nice part about it being live, as the teachers are entering grades, you're going to be able to find out exactly how the progress of your student. You're going to be able to check their attendance. You're gonna find out all sorts of information about your student. So from the HoustonISD.org website, one of the ways you can get there is if you just scroll down to the bottom of the page, you're going to see a parent portal link. And this will take you to the page where you can access different resources. So if we can't show you our demo that we had planned for you this afternoon or this evening, you can definitely go back in and click on several of these links that are over to the right. So this is exactly the section that Adrian was just talking about. This is where you're going to go in, and this is where you would sign in, but we'll talk to you about that in just a second. But once you get signed in, Eric's highlighting here that says after you get signed in, you're going to be able to check and select the student verification link on the left and complete the forms for this year's students. Now, if you don't have an account yet, if you've not set an account up in the parent portal, you can click on create an account, and you'll fill out this information with your information. Make sure that you don't mistype anything, because you're going to get emails to whatever email account that you use there. You're going to create your own unique password. Needs to be at least 8 characters long. And then all of the information associated with your student. Now, if you'll notice, it says the student name, and then right underneath that, it says access ID and access password. This is the access ID and password that you're going to obtain from your student's campus. So if you don't know what that is, I give them a call and they'll provide that for you. Then you'll go through and you'll fill out the relationship that you are to that student. And then you'll repeat that process for each student afterwards. And then at the most important part, you hit the enter button at the very bottom, and then that account will then link your students to you. All right. And then we're going to I'll tell you where the how-to videos are for now. And then hopefully we'll find out what's causing us not to be able to access my site. But if you click on the how-to videos, there's actually a getting started with HISD Connect parent portal. And that's going to go through exactly what I just went through just now to talk to you about how to create that account for your student. And then the next one over, if Eric, go ahead and click on that for me. We're not going to let it play the sound, but if you click on the completing the forms in HISD Connect, this will be a real short video on how to create the form. It'll play right after that little advertisement plays there. And it'll walk you through the those forms. Let's see if you can fast forward to that section, Eric. So can you freeze that screen right there for me? If you can go back one, pause it. So this is where the forms are. Oops, we're gonna improvise here. So this is where the forms are once you get logged in. If you'll notice over on the left-hand side, you'll see some navigation, and this is towards the bottom of that navigation. It actually says forms. And you'll click in, and any of the forms that are needed for your student, associated with your students, are going to be listed here under each student. It's important that you do that for each of your students. One form won't work for just one, for all students. You'll need to create one or fill out the form for each of your students if you've got more than one. Eric, let's go ahead and let that forward just a little bit. I'm going to stop on that where it looks like the gradebook screen there. It should be coming up here in just a second. Maybe you have to go back a little bit then. I think, yeah, that's it. So once you get logged in to the parent portal, you'll have a screen that looks very similar to this. And the nice thing is if you look over at the up at the very top, it's going to list up there, it's going to say welcome. And then in our case, where I'm a parent, we came up with an original name here. And that's where you'll go in, make sure that that's how you're logged into this system. And then important, after you've completed your session, you'll click the sign out button. Now, if you look over here up at the top where that red box is, right underneath the Power School logo, you'll see that's the students that are associated with this particular account, Michael, Lindsay, and Nick. As you scroll down in the navigation pane, there's a lot of information here. You can look at grades and attendance, and that's actually the screen we're looking at now. So let's, since we're already on it and we're frozen on this particular slide, in this case, we would be able to see the attendance for each of our students. If the student had missed any, it would indicate that over underneath the absence column, or if they're tardy, it'll list the tardy. So that's really important. So if you're not sure if your student's in school that day or not, then you can always go in and look at these absences, and it'll list right there for you in the grade book. In this case, we're looking at the student, basically also the student schedule. You can tell exactly what courses are available for that student. So here, this is an elementary student in this case. So we're looking at the homeroom, and then it looks like fourth grade. In this case, it's English, but fourth grade math. These are maybe not real courses in this training environment. Okay, I heard that little beep. And then Eric, go ahead and let that play for just a second. Actually stop right there. If you'll notice, also you can see the grades. Now, what I'm not going to be able to show you right now would be you could click on any one of those grades and it'll take you to that in the grade book. It'll show you what exactly what's going on with that. So if I were to click on that 76 or 73C, I could go in and see when that assignment was due and all the information that the teacher has put in. If for some reason you log in and you don't see any assignments in there, I would contact the student's teacher and ask why there's no grades, because there's a possibility that maybe he or she just hasn't gotten into putting in those grades yet. All right. And going down through that navigation, you'll be able to check the student's schedule will be listed there. And then there's a few other things in there, but I encourage each of you, if you've not done so, to go in and create that account and start taking a look at your students' information. It's really going to help improve communication between your student, you, and the teacher, and get everybody on the same page. And with that note, I'm going to turn it back over to Adrian. Adrian?
Thank you, Ken. So if we can, now we're going to go to the next portion of the presentation, which is temporary online learning. So if we go on to the next slide, please. So I think one of the things we want to make sure we provide more information to parents so we can better support you. So for those of you that are unaware, temporary online learning is basically a short-term virtual instruction. This is something that's available for students for up to 20 instructional days. That means, again, those counts Monday through Friday if they're instructional days, if there's school happening. What this is 4 hours of synchronous instruction. And the word synchronous means that there's a teacher present on the other end during these 4 hours of instruction. We are only offering temporary online learning for on-level courses. So if your student has to use that opportunity, we're only offering online level courses. That means we are not offering any AP courses or any courses that require specific or dedicated instruction that are very specific to your campus, just due to the fact that unfortunately we don't have the staff available to provide that opportunity. This temporary online learning is available to all grade levels. So this is something that's open to everybody from grades pre-K to 12th grade. If we go on to the next slide, we start asking ourselves, so what constitutes for my student to have access to temporary online learning? Well, temporary online learning is basically when your student is not able to attend classes for a short period of time. For your student to be able to qualify for this, they have to have a medical condition that is documented by a physician in the U.S. that they may be sick, or they have had a COVID-19 positive test result, or they're showing symptoms of one of the communicable conditions listed on the screen, or they have been identified as a student having close contact to somebody who has had COVID-19. So if your student fits in any of these criteria, you can request temporary online learning for your student. Again, temporary online learning is only a temporary component of it. It is not to be used for the duration of the semester. It's only meant to up to 20 instructional days. If we can go on to the next slide. When your student logs in when your student registers for temporary online learning, a couple of things will happen. Your school will enroll them after they receive your request. When the students are enrolled, they will go to the hub and they'll see classes that are going to become available for them. The hub courses will have content that's available on the screen as you see there. And the most important thing though is that on the right-hand side, they're going to see a Microsoft Teams button. When they click on it during their schedule, that's where they'll be able to access the teacher's classrooms. If you need any how-tos or walkthrough videos, those are available at the HISD at Home website to aid you in this process. If we can go on to the next one. So that is right there for, in a nutshell, what temporary online learning is. Again, it is meant to be as a temporary opportunity for students to continue their learning during a short period of time. The key point I would like to stress to parents is that it's only for 20 instructional days. So if your student had to do last week temporary online learning for the whole week, they only used up 2 instructional days, right? Because Monday we had class, Tuesday we had the storm, Wednesday we were back in class. So there was only 2 days that were being used. So I want to make sure parents are aware it's 20 instructional days for the whole year. Okay, the next section, I'm going to pass it up, is going to be to Mr. Raul Alanis. Go ahead, Mr. Raul.
Hi. Can we go ahead and go back a slide, please? So we're going to talk about our digital resources. So as a district, we have a wide variety of online platforms and resources that our students can access. That can be accessed by visiting www.houstonisd.org/digital resources. Once a student is logged in, they'll have access to their digital textbooks, supplemental platforms like Mayan and McKinney that give students access to digital libraries that students can read, supplemental resources such as WeVideo, which is an online video editor platform where students can create and edit videos collaboratively and publish them, among several hundred other resources ranging from pre-K all the way through 12th grade, and even some higher ed resources for those students that are enrolled in advanced placement courses. All right, next slide. So to log in, once you visit that HISD page, you're going to be asked to click on Login with Active Directory. When you click that Active Directory window, you're going to see a next screen that asks you to enter your student's HISD network ID and password. Student's network ID is the letter S followed by their student ID number at online.houstonisd.org. If you don't know your child's student ID number, please reach out to the campus so that they can provide you that ID. The student's default password is their date of birth in 8-digit format. So for example, if a student's birthday is March 5th, 2013, their default password would be 03152013, right? So that is their default password. However, students do have the ability to change passwords, and in some instances, students have had their passwords changed by teachers. So if you're unable to log in using that default password, you can reach out to your child's campus and they can help reset that password for you, or you can call the HISD service desk. The number for the HISD service desk is, one second, I'm sure Ken can recite it off the top of his head, but it is.
You want me to give it to him, Raul?
Yes, please.
All right, that number is 713-892-7378.
Thank you, Ken. So if you call the service desk, they are happy to help you with resetting your child's password. And once you log in, like I said, you're going to see that page with all of the resources that your students have access to. Pretty much any of the icons that you see available should be resources your students are able to log in. If you do run into any instances where you get an error message once you log into a page, or you're having trouble accessing a resource, you can either contact your child's teacher for help, or again, contact the service desk for assistance with getting a ticket open. So someone from the academic instructional technology team can reach out and make sure that we get that problem resolved for you. All right, next slide. All right, I think that's all the information we have for you today.
Thank you, Mr. Acosta, Mr. Alanis, Mr. Boswell, and Mr. Gedkin for that beneficial information. Presenters, I do have a reminder for you all. Try your best to go at a slower pace so our Spanish interpreter can pick up what we're saying and properly translate the message for our Spanish-speaking parents. Please and thank you. And then also another reminder, we do have some questions going on in the chat. So presenters, if you could do your best to answer as many of them as you can, that would be great. But now let's go ahead and take a moment to get one of our most common questions answered for our parents. So the question is, will I be able to see my child's progress report, final grades on the HISD parent portal? And why is it important to know those grades using the parent portal? Repeat those questions one more time. Will I be able to see my child's progress report, final grades on the HISD parent portal? And why is it important to know those grades using the parent portal?
So I'll answer part of that, Adrian. Absolutely, all of the grades, all of the attendance is real time. It's out there for you, and that is so that you can stay in touch with exactly the progress of your child and find out, just how well they're doing. Adrian, I'll let you kind of answer the second part of that since you've been in the classroom before.
So it's really important for parents to keep track of the student progress, right? So I highly encourage all the parents to make an account. That is how you're gonna find out how well your student's doing, if they need additional support. And so it's always up to date. You'll have access to all the students' grades through the Parent Connect portal. So again, it's really, really important. Specifically, if you have a student that might be struggling in specific subject matter. So for instance, I struggled in reading and language arts. So my parents would definitely be have found that useful to be able to keep my progress, monitoring my progress. So again, that's why it's really important for you to connect and be able to track your students' progress. And in case they do need support, you can reach out to your campus.
Once again, thank you all so much for that helpful information and for getting those resources to our parents. Parents, don't forget, there is a link and QR code on the screen that will take you to a form to sign in and show that you participated in tonight's event. There is also a link in the Q&A area. So either click on the link or take out your phone, open up your camera, and scan the QR code. They will both take you to fill out the form. I would now like to introduce Ms. Trevetta Sowles from HISD Special Education Department, Mr. Virgil Elkins from Wraparound Services, and Ms. Ilka Rosado from the Homeless Assistance Department. Thank you all for joining us. Also remember that there is a Q&A box, so please feel free to utilize the Q&A box so we can get your questions answered. Thank you all.
Good evening. Next slide. In this session, parents will gain an understanding of the difference between temporary online learning and virtual academy, understand the process of documenting services in the student's individualized education program through the temporary distance learning plan, gaining understanding of how instructional and related services will be delivered during temporary online learning and virtual academy. Be able to locate available digital resources. Temporary online learning. Students who are unable to attend school because of a temporary medical condition are eligible for a maximum of 20 days of temporary online learning during the 2021-2022 school year. Students are assigned a temporary learning teacher, and there's a combination of synchronous and asynchronous instruction provided. Instructional services will be provided according to the IEP in this instance. Virtual academy, for our students too young to be vaccinated, ages 11 and under, who have a compromised immune system. Students, of course, will be assigned a virtual academy teacher in this instance, and this option is available for the fall 2021. It offers a combination of synchronous and asynchronous instruction. Instructional services will be provided in this instance as well, according to the IEP. The notice of an ARD IEP meeting to review your child's IEPs to include the temporary distance learning plan should include the statement, Temporary distance learning plan will be developed to document the services to be provided when in-person instruction is interrupted. It may also include just the acronym Temporary Distance Learning Plan, TDLP. The Temporary Distance Learning Plan will include at least 2 hours of synchronous and 2 hours of asynchronous learning per day for elementary and 4 hours of synchronous learning for secondary, which will also include your child's accommodations and/or modifications to be provided during synchronous learning or during asynchronous learning when the student needs the accommodations and/or modifications. Next slide. Delivery of instructional and related services. Speech therapy services will be provided via telepractice based on the goals and students' goals and/or objectives, and the sessions, frequency, and duration as determined by the ARD IEP committee. Telepractice consent will need to be signed by the parent or guardian in this instance. Occupational and physical therapy will be provided via teletherapy according to the session, frequency, and duration as determined by the ARD committee. Music therapy, adaptive PE, deaf and hard of hearing services, visual impairment services, and orientation and mobility services will be provided via Microsoft Teams during the student's asynchronous time according to the session, frequency, and duration length as determined by the ARD committee. Counseling as a related service will be provided via a FERPA and HIPAA approved virtual platform. Services will be provided based on IEP goals and objectives, session frequency, and duration as determined by the ARD IEP committee. Next slide. It's Learning Hub resources. Students receiving special education services may also access their individualized services using some of the same online resources as their non-disabled peers. Students will use the Hub to locate daily agenda and Teams meeting links. Instruction will take place online and be conducted through live streaming instruction and independent work or online modules.
This is for lots of students.
Students can access additional resources in Clever via the Digital Resources tab in the Hub. Next slide. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. My name is Virgil Elkins, and I serve as a HISD Wraparound Manager. Joining me this evening are managers Magdalena Ramon, as well as Ms. Kenya Washington, and they'll be navigating your questions in the chat. I'm happy to provide an overview of the HISD Wraparound Resource Department. Next slide. So community schools focus on the well-being of children, families, and communities so that students can succeed in school, graduate, and go on to satisfying roles in their respective careers. HISD Wraparound Support Services can assist in this venture by building intentional and sustainable, partnerships with students, parents, staff, and community stakeholders. Next slide. So wraparound services address non-academic issues our students face, but complement academics to improve outcomes by addressing challenges. In wraparound, our goal is to assist students in their focus on educational success and not view their academics as a deterrent due to non-academic adversity. The relationship between the wraparound department and each school is very important for this program to work. Overall, we want to ensure that every child has an opportunity to earn a quality and worry-free education. Next slide. So here are some subcategories where our wraparound resource specialist supports students and families. The wraparound department seeks out partnerships with potential providers in all categories. We work fervently to create meaningful partnerships in the community in efforts to support our students and families. And next slide. Even if your campus does not have a wraparound specialist at this time, you can still submit a student assistance form, also known as a SAF. The need will be addressed in a timely manner. And also just a heads up, if you use the QR code, there will be a pop-up blocker when initiating the SAF. Accept the pop-up and continue in completing the SAF. Next slide. Okay, thank you. Anyone can submit a student assistance form as long as the person has access to a smartphone, computer, or any device that allows you to access the internet. Anyone can submit a SAF. You can reach us by typing in the bar https://www.houstonisd.org/wraparound, or reach out to your student or school's wraparound resource specialist for more questions pertaining to your school. Also, you can reach us at the office at 713-556-5917. And if you have any questions, again, they'll be monitoring your questions in the slides or in the chat. Thank you.
And now we have our presenter, Ms. Ilka Rosado. And I believe you're muted, Ms. Rosado.
Can y'all hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay, and good evening. I'm delighted for the opportunity to present our program information, services, and supports available. Tonight, we have Ms. Arania Fernandez and Timmy Dawson, who will be answering the questions in chat. Student Assistance Services. So who is Student Assistance Services? Student Assistance Services incorporates the use of compliance analysts, outreach workers to provide assistance and support to homeless students and students who are in foster care or residential treatment centers or RTCs, as well as assist campuses in matters of attendance, dropout prevention, and recovery. Next slide. Compliance. So we ensure that we are in compliance, that the district is in compliance with district, state, and federal policies by providing guidance and technical support campuses regarding House Bill 2398, attendance procedures, the McKinney Vento Act, the ESSA provisions, and Fostering Connections to Success and Increasing Adoptions Act of 2008. We collaborate with internal and external partners and students for the students and parents. We also provide outreach events such as our Back to School event and Project Prom, which attract and re-engage students and families aimed at increasing awareness of district and community resources and supports. We also advocate on behalf of students and parents to ensure homeless students and foster care students' educational rights and/or special education accommodations are met. In addition, we represent students and parents during enrollment issues or disputes. Next slide. So who is homeless? It's pretty much any student who lacks a fixed, regular, adequate nighttime residence. And because there are so many living situations, that could be somebody who is doubled up, living in a shelter, living with a friend or family. There's so many scenarios that constitute homeless. So if you have any questions, you can always call our office or get with your campus. Next slide, please. The McKinney Vento Act. So this is the law that governs our program. The McKinney Vento Act requires the immediate enrollment of children or youth experiencing homelessness, even in the absence of records or that are normally required for enrollment. So if you're in transition and you walk into any campus, they are to provide immediate enrollment, even if you're missing shot records, any type of records that are not present, you are to be provided with immediate enrollment upon arrival at the campus. Next slide, please. So the form that our department uses to identify the homeless students is called the Student Assistance Questionnaire. And this form, the SAQ, should be provided to every student during enrollment. At any time a student or parent states that their living situation has changed. So the student may not be homeless at the beginning of the school year, and somewhere along the line, a student, parent, or somebody may lose employment, become ill, and the living situation may change. At that time, the campus can provide you with an SAQ so that we can determine your current living situation, identify you properly on the campus level, and then initiate services through our department. This form should be provided to students who are withdrawing to see if their living situation has changed. Oftentimes, parents, when you are moving, you're not aware of your rights when you're living in this situation, that when you're trying to withdraw your child to put them in another campus that is zoned to your current address, if you're living in this situation, you actually have school of origin rights. So you may not have to withdraw your child if you don't want to. And at that time, that's a conversation that we can have to determine what's in the best interest of your child. And that SAQ can be provided to you at that time so we can determine what services we can provide. And it should be also provided to all accompanied youth that are on any campus to initiate services and support. Next slide, please. So the services that we provide are free uniforms. We have school supplies, backpacks. We have undergarments, belts, shoes. We also have hygiene items. We try to provide students with everything they need to be successful and to feel like they're part of the campus. We also assist with transportation, either the school of origin transportation, even if it's out of district from your current address. We help initiate those transportation services. And we also provide Metro Money passes to those students that qualify, in case that some students and parents prefer Metro passes because it allows more flexibility. So we provide those to the parents and students upon request. We provide enrollment assistance. So anytime that students or families need assistance with enrollment, if they're missing documents and don't know how to proceed, or even if campuses don't know how to proceed, we can assist. We provide resources and referrals for immunizations, food, mental health services, social services, any type of services, we can provide referrals. We also have a shelter listing that we provide our parents to kind of give them an idea of the local shelters that are available for support. We also provide homeless verification letters to the seniors who are living in homeless situations or who are unaccompanied. The homeless verification letter can assist with the FAFSA, and it can open up opportunities for financial aid. Next slide, please. So now we're going to talk about our students that are in foster care and residential treatment centers, or RTCs, as I mentioned. These are our students that cannot live safely at home. CPS tries to find relatives and family and friends who can provide a stable environment for these students while the parents try to figure out what to do. These are our students that are typically in CPS, DFPS custody. If no one can be found, the court can give temporary legal custody to CPS, who then places these children in foster care. And the RTCs are living facilities in which only foster youth who have not been assigned a foster parent and they're awaiting placement, that's where these students reside. So we assist with all of these students in these various living situations. We provide all of the services I just mentioned to all of these students to try to help them be successful in their current placements. Next slide, please. And of course, if you need to get in touch with the Homeless Education Office, our number is 713-556-7237. We would be happy to assist if you're in transition, if you find yourself in one of these living situations or are not sure, we'll be happy to provide answers and support to your needs. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Ms. Sowles, Mr. Elkins, and Ms. Rosado for that helpful information. But before we move on to some common questions, I do want to let you all know, parents, if your question has not gotten answered in the chat, no worries. We will be answering all questions and generating a Q&A transcript and getting it sent out to you all. So now let's move on to some of our common questions that are mostly asked. The first question from Ms. Sowles regarding special education. If I have turned in paperwork to the school for my daughter that has been diagnosed with anxiety, how long will it take for her to receive accommodations?
So this is a student-specific response, so I need more information. Otherwise, it will be a very generic answer that may not apply to the situation. So I'll need this parent to reach out to me at 713-556-7048. And of course, any other parent that has this same similar question, whether it's related to special education services or Section 504, and we will resolve this parent's concern.
All righty, thank you so much, Ms. Sowles. We'll get that information for the special education department and put it in the chat for that parent to reach out about their scholar. Our second question is for Mr. Elkins regarding wraparound services. I am short in my personal budget. If I need uniforms for my children, but I am unable to buy them, who may assist me with this? And how may I request this assistance?
So thank you for that question, Mr. Thomas. So what the parent would do, the parent would reach out to the wraparound specialist. They can either call them, the school, and ask for the wraparound specialist, or as stated in our presentation, they can scan the QR code or even go online to the HISD website to the wraparound department and submit a student assistance form. Then the wraparound specialist will reach out to the parent and assess their needs. We don't want to just call and say, hey, I hear you need uniforms. We want to just make sure all areas are covered in case the parent is in need. So our goal is to connect the student and the families to as many resources as possible to make sure that it doesn't interrupt their academic success. So yes, they can reach out to their wraparound specialist, and again, same way, call the school, use the QR code, or go on our website, easily accessible.
Right, thank you, Mr. Elkins. And our last question is for Ms. Rosado regarding homeless assistance. If I'm going through difficult times, but I do not want to lose my children, who can assist me in finding temporary shelter for my children, and how?
Well, our office can help with that. So what we can do is, you would contact our office. We would do a brief assessment with you. We would probably do a manual SAQ on the phone with you, and we would discuss what the options are for shelters. A lot of the area shelters are very specific to family sizes, or genders of your children and ages. So we can kind of navigate and try to give you the best option for shelters that would fit your family, situation. Of course, we also, if that's not an option and maybe the parent is employed but just needs assistance with housing, we have options. We have a housing component that may be able to provide assistance with move-in. So there are various options we can explore that may be the best solution for this parent. Our office number is 713-556-7237.
Parents, there is a link and QR code on the screen that will take you to a form to sign in and show that you participated tonight. There is also a link in the Q&A area. So either click on the link or take out your phone, open up that camera, and scan that QR code. They will both take you to fill out the form. I now would like to introduce Mr. Justin Fuentes from HISD's School of Choice Department. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for having us. HISD School Choice, hundreds of school options in one application. Thank you for choosing HISD.org. I wanted to go over our program options with you. We have lots of choice options for our families. Number one is our neighborhood schools. That is your zone campus. That's the one that's in your neighborhood. We have pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds. I want to be clear about that, 3 and 4-year-olds. Finer performing arts, we have a multitude of different types of finer performing arts. External performance contract campuses, also known as charter schools. So they have a very specific type of curriculum at those schools. Montessori, if you're familiar with Montessori education. Early college, team with HCC, where students can get an associate's degree while in high school. Health professions, of course, looking at the medical fields. Singer General College Prep. Yes, we have one boy and one girls school, right? We have separate single gender schools. International specialty. If your child is interested in international studies or anything to that effect. Career and technical education. I heard yesterday that people were looking for jobs, right? And work in the industry for their children. Career and technical education is our avenue there. Dual language, if you want your child to learn a language, right? Actually learn that language while they're learning their regular education in English as well. International Baccalaureate, better known as IB, very popular program, high rigor, and great for our students that are college bound and all others. A little bit of project-based learning there as well. STEM and STEAM, we're talking about science, technology, engineering, sometimes arts, that's the A, and then the M is for math. Futures Academy, here are some of our career and technical education programs that a student can actually get college credit in. Language immersion is where you get immersed in a language. It's the only language spoken on the campus, a little bit of English. Energy, of course, we are the energy capital of the world, so petrochemical and all different kinds of energy there. Literature, of course, we all still need writers in this world. And then Magnet Vanguard for our gifted and talented students. And of course, we have more than that. Next slide, please. Some of our most important details for our parents right now is our deadlines, right? And what do our phases look like? Because the application period already started, right? The first day to apply has passed and phase one has begun. So with pre-kindergarten, I do want to make sure that you know that this is a little bit of a shift in our deadlines. We are trying to align with our K-12 or kindergarten through 12 deadlines to make it a little more easier for you guys to calendar. So again, first day, we've already begun. The end of phase one will be March 10th this year. That will also be, and you'll see that's also the last day for phase two of K-12 transfers. But again, March 10th is the one day, if you want to get into those high profile schools, those very popular schools, we will run lotteries, but only if you apply before March 10th. And then phase one ends as well. Phase two begins. Phase two, when that begins, that's a in order of application, right? So when you submit it. April 7th is always an important date. April 7th, we will actually be the first notification. That will be for TEA, Texas Education Agency eligible pre-K4 families. They will be notified again on April 7th. They will have 2 weeks to secure the seats that have been offered to them. If they do not secure those seats, then we open seats to other students at that time. So that date is actually April 21st. As of April 21st, schools can offer seats to tuition-based pre-K4 students and to TEA eligible pre-K3 students. Okay, so again, that'll be in order of a wait list because those phase one students are still in that lottery. Now, if space becomes available, phase two applications will be placed in order of submission date and time. So if you don't apply during phase one, you apply during phase two, we're going to look at the date and the time, and that's going to be the order in which students are called off the wait list. Last piece, after April 21st, because we're trying to get enrollment done quickly, families will have 48 hours to submit their acceptance for that pre-K program. Okay, next slide, please. For kindergarten through 12, again, we've already started for kindergarten through 12, so please get your application in now. November 11th is the date that phase one will end. Okay, so you've had a 2-month period to submit applications. As of November 11th, we will end phase one. Again, we do push you guys to apply during phase one because that's when the high profile schools are going to get selected. We will notify parents on January 27th of their qualifications, of their offers. Again, those families will have 2 weeks. That'll be till February 10th to secure those seats. After February 10th, we start going down the wait list for students from phase 1. And then if there are not enough students there, we will move on to phase 2 students. Okay, after February 10th, families will only have 3 business days to secure those seats. As of March 10th ends K-12 phase 2. Okay, that is an important date, and I want you to put that on your calendar. That is the last day that you can apply for an HISD program if you're still an HISD student. Okay, very important. April 7th will be the last day for schools to not just offer those seats, but finalize your transfer for the next school year. Now, that being said, there are other transfers that are available, right? Some of those listed below: grandparent affidavit, hardship, homeless, language of instruction, school-based employee, special education, violent crime victim. Those are all federally based or special circumstances types of transfers, not necessarily choices, right? So we do want you to get into those other choice programs early. Please do it as early as possible. And again, just so you know, we will have a virtual fair in 2 weeks that you can join us on Saturday. Next slide, please. Here we go, our school choice fairs. Again, these are going to be virtual. We will have four fairs on Saturdays during the fall. Our first one was last Saturday. We will have our coordinators there from our magnet schools, and we will have representatives from other programs as well. We will also do a general presentation about the school choice application process and take questions. Get in early. If you want help with your application, we can definitely sign you up for an appointment at that time where you can meet with somebody virtually to work on your application. So right now, again, our first one was September 18th. Next one is October 2nd, October 16th, and October 30th. That'll be right before the end of phase 1 for K-12. In the spring, because we want to make sure our pre-K families have a choice and see what options are out there, we also want to make sure that schools that have space available have opportunities to present to you. So that'll be February 12th and 26th. We hope that these could be in the fall. In the spring will be in person, but we don't know that for sure. You know, we'll wait and see on that, guys. All right, and just visit our website again. That's choosehisd.org to find a link to those fairs on that date. Next slide, please. Online applications, of course, we would like you to do it online. You can go to hisdchoice.com. That'll take you directly to your application. You'll have to enter student information, family information, and sibling information. And of course, it's very important that you review and submit. Some families forget to submit and they lose the lottery space because of that. Next slide, please. Of course, we still have paper applications as well. You can get a paper application off of our website, or you can go to any school and ask for them to print one out for you. Of course, we do ask that you do the application in ink so that it does not bleed and we can read it. Next slide, please. There will be documents that are needed to submit, right? Sometimes we need, especially if you're new to the district, we're going to need your birth certificate, your proof of address, things like that. Easiest way is if you've done an online application is to directly upload those into the application. You can put a piece of paper, the birth certificate on the table, take your cell phone out and take a picture and upload that picture. It's that quick and that easy. You can also mail them to us at the Office of School Choice, 4400 West 18th Street, Houston, Texas, 77092, or you can do it in person. You can bring it to the school that you applied to, or you can bring it to the Office of School Choice. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fuentes, for that beneficial information.
Yes, sir.
Now let's take a moment to present a common question posted in the Q&A area. The question is, what are my options if I do not want my child to attend his or her zoned school?
Thank you. Thank you. Every school in Houston ISD is a school of choice. Okay. Our advice is, again, that you join us at our fair in 2 weeks. You come talk to us. You talk to the representatives from the campuses, see what options are there. That, again, you do get into one of our sessions where you can start your application. One of the things we changed about our application this year is that you have to check every box. So when you get to step 3, you're going to click every box there that's available. Why are we doing that? Because we want you to see every option available, right? So when you go and look at that one dream school, you know that there's a magnet program, there might be one there, but you can also see the other options. There might be career and technology, there might be dual language, there might be homeless, right? Just like was talked about by the former presenter, right? We have homeless transfer options to all of our schools as well if you're not living in your regular residence. So lots of options out there. Call us, ask us, visit us at the School Choice Fair. We also have Magnet Thursdays that are coming up. Check out our website one last time, choosehisd.org.
All right. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Fuentes. Lastly, but certainly not least, I would like to introduce Dr. Armando Correa, a medical director for International Patient Services at the Texas Children's Hospital. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Armando Correa is the medical director of International Patient Services at the Texas Children's Hospital. He is also an assistant professor in the Department of Pediatrics at Baylor College of Medicine. Dr. Correa received his medical degree from the Technology Institute in Monterrey, Mexico, and completed his residency in pediatrics at Children's Hospital in Austin, and then completed a fellowship in pediatric infectious diseases at Baylor College of Medicine. He is board certified in general pediatrics and pediatric infectious diseases. Dr. Correa is also a member of the Pediatric Infectious Disease Society. He is the current director of the General Pediatrics Consult Clinic as well. Thank you again for being here. We have some questions for you from our community. The first one being, what strategies do you recommend parents put in place to protect children against COVID-19?
Well, thank you very much for having me this afternoon. I'm incredibly proud to be here and sharing a little bit of information on COVID-19, the safety measures that the schools have taken, and also to share some of the good news, and more important, try to answer some of the questions that you parents have about your children. As a grandfather of children in public schools here in the Houston area, I am incredibly happy to share the information that we've acquired over the years, over the last year, in an effort to help you understand what things we can do. And to answer your first question, what things can parents do? Well, certainly our HISD board has been very helpful in terms of determining some of the things that we want to do to prevent COVID from spreading. And certainly the measures that are most important is that the staff and all the students 3 years or over should wear a mask. We also want to make sure that we practice proper hand hygiene and that we try to distance as much as possible the students from each other. I think that a very important point is immunizing everybody that can get the vaccine around those children. We know that children less than 11 years of age cannot get the vaccine, but let's make sure that those that are 12 or older get their vaccine. Similarly, you as parents get vaccinated. Our schools are asking teachers and staff to make sure they get vaccinated, and everybody that is around that child should be vaccinated until we're able to protect them themselves. And I think that, as you know, schools have taken other measures. You should take similar measures, right? If somebody comes up with cold, fever, anything that may look or sound like COVID, it is important to isolate them, seek medical attention, and if they are found to be COVID positive, that they do the proper quarantine.
Thank you. Question number 2. How can I speak to my children about COVID-19 safety protocols in schools, like face covering and hygiene routines, and how to stay safe while playing with friends?
That's a great question because we know that children are very perceptive. They are hearing that we are worried about COVID. So the first thing that we need to do is be calm, but also be honest to them. And first, you need to understand what are they thinking? Are they worried about themselves, or are they worried about older people in their household that may get the disease? You also want to emphasize to them, take advantage of some of the news or things they have heard and explain to them why it's important to wear a mask. And if they're around other children that are not wearing a mask, to distance themselves and instead go look for somebody that is doing the proper hygienic measures. I think that something that is important is to make them let them have some control over things. Emphasize to them the importance of hand washing, and then show them how to do the hand washing or hand hygiene, and let them themselves practice it frequently, because that gives them control. Similarly, talk to them about maybe what kind of mask they want to use. They know they're going to have to wear it, but give them a little bit of choice of what they think would be best for them.
Question number 3. Why are temperature checks not feasible at detecting COVID-19 exposures?
That's a great question because, as you all know, fortunately, children are less likely to have symptoms. And most of them, if they have a case of COVID, it's going to be mild. That's the good news, right? But because their cases are mild, most of them are not going to have a fever. So even though they may be harboring the virus, they may be able to spread the virus, they're not going to show a temperature elevation. They're not going to show a fever. And that's why we cannot rely on temperature checks. It's more important to rely on, once a case is identified, making sure that any possible contact is aware and, if needed, gets properly tested.
Question number 4. How can families and children practice safety during COVID-19?
Well, I think we alluded to some of those things, right? Obviously, if you can get vaccinated, if you're in an age group where there is a vaccine, please go ahead and get it. That's one of the best things that you can do, the most efficient things you can do to protect your children. If you are in your household, it is okay to not wear a mask. But if you're going to another household, to another family member, then it's important that you wear a mask. And sometimes it's not for you or your children, it's because you don't know what the status of that other person is, that other family member. One thing that I will really encourage you is to practice activities outside the home. Fortunately, I think today is the last day of 90-degree weather. We're hearing that there's a cooler front moving in, and this will give us more opportunities to spend time outside. And it's okay to go and attend the school events like football or other activities, especially if they're outside. We know the transmission of this virus is much less outside, but if you are going to be inside in a crowded condition, even if you have the vaccine, just put on that mask and practice proper hand washing and social distancing.
All righty, thank you. Question number 5. With the flu season approaching, how can parents differentiate between COVID-19 symptoms and symptoms from the flu?
Unfortunately, that is a tough one because they both can present with exactly the same symptoms. So just based on how a child looks or what symptoms he or she has, it's not enough to make the distinction. So probably more important is prevention. If we can, in addition to getting COVID vaccine for those that can get it, but make sure that all your children get the flu vaccine, and you know that you can give it 6 months or older, then that way you won't have that question of whether it is flu or COVID because you already gave them the vaccine against flu to protect them. But the reality is the only way to know is really by doing testing. So seek medical attention. Your provider will likely do a test for flu and for COVID and be able to tell you which one of those two it is, or if it is another virus. Now, something that I want to emphasize is if your child is doing the proper measures, wearing a mask, socially distancing, washing their hands, cleaning their hands frequently, that's going to protect them against flu too. So flu vaccine plus the measures that we're taking against COVID are going to hopefully keep flu from being a problem this year. But we need to get them immunized.
Thank you. Question number 6. What recommendation do you have for a child with autism who has issues accepting the shot out of fear of anxiety?
That's a tough one because we know that those children with special needs like autism and other developmental delays are the ones that are being affected the most from not being in school in person. So we want to get those kids in school as fast as possible because that's where they're going to learn. That's where they're going to benefit the most. Now, if they have a fear of the injection or if they have a fear of wearing the mask, the best thing that we can do is try to negotiate with them if you are able to. Many of them are not. And explain to them why the vaccine is so important. And let them understand that that's going to help them regain some of the control that they want. But the reality is that's the group where we're having the hardest time. And it's the group where we want to, as much as possible, keep them in small groups, having them wear masks if they're able to tolerate it. We know some of them cannot, and immunizing the people around them, because that's going to decrease the chances that they will get infected.
Thank you. And question number 7, our last question. Do you have any other important information to share about COVID-19 that is relevant to our families?
Certainly, and once again, thank you all for being here this evening. I do want to share some good news. I want to start with some good news. The good news is the number of cases of COVID in this latest peak is finally coming down. There's about a 7 to 8% decrease in number of cases in the last 2 weeks. Also, the number of cases that end up in the hospital is also decreasing by about 7%. Now, there's unfortunately a part to this is that many ICUs, especially in Texas and in Florida, are still full, right? So a full ICU is still a full ICU. So we need to make sure that we continue to take measures to decrease the number of cases. Now, probably the most important thing I have to share with you, and you may all have heard yesterday that one of the vaccine manufacturers, Pfizer, has revealed the results of their trials for children between 5 and 11 years of age. And they're very encouraging. They didn't have to use the whole vaccine, the whole dose that you and I got. They actually used only a third of the amount. And they found out that children in 5 to 11 years of age responded as good to just 1/3 of the amount than to the full amount. So that means that Now the FDA is going to look, and it's going to look very careful because we want to make sure that it's a safe vaccine for children. But if they find that it's safe and effective, then we should be able to get the vaccine probably in the middle or late of October. Then also they mentioned that the results are looking also very encouraging for children less than 5 years of age. And that's going to take a little bit longer, but maybe by the end of the year. And that's what's going to allow us to regain control of our lives, to end this pandemic. Remember, the measures that our school district is taking, the measures that physicians and family members are taking, are helping decrease the chances of COVID, but they're not eliminating it until we're able to vaccinate everybody.
Thank you so much, Dr. Correa. One final question, and this is a common question that we are getting in the Q&A area from our parents. And the question really is, a lot of parents are having a concern when it comes to going to their child's pediatrician, the pediatric office, and getting either the flu shot or the COVID vaccine. So the question really is, where are some other places that these parents can take their children to get the flu shot or the COVID vaccine if it's not offered by their pediatrician?
Certainly, we certainly, as a pediatrician, as a practicing pediatrician, I have seen that concern. And I understand you're worried about going to the office and then being exposed to other children or adults who may be infected with COVID or the flu. So the solution to this has been, fortunately, that many places are doing now flu vaccine in your car, in your vehicle, so that you don't have to be around other people. Some other places are doing walk-in clinics, if you want to call them walk-in, because they're actually outside so that people will be waiting outside. And more important, doing it by appointments is where we have found that is the most helpful thing. For example, at Texas Children's Hospital, if you want to receive your vaccine, you can make your appointment. And that way, there'll only be 1 or 2 other families at that time and be able to get your COVID vaccine, for example. But the important thing is that you get it and look at different opportunities. I'm sure that once the COVID vaccine is available for younger children, there's going to be some drive-through places, some walk-through places, so that we minimize the exposure to a room full of people waiting. And I think that as a parent, I would worry about that too.
Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Armando Correa. You gave us some great resources and some very beneficial information. Thank you, speakers, all of our speakers, all of our presenters, and parents for joining us this evening for our first Parent University for this school year. Our next Parent University will be October 19th at 6 p.m., so look out for those details. Please fill out the exit survey and tell us how much you enjoyed tonight's event. The link and the QR code is on the screen. And there's also a link in the Q&A area. Also, once again, if your questions were not answered, we will be generating a Q&A transcript and getting it sent out to you all. Again, thank you all so much for joining us for our first Parent University. Have a great night, and please remember to stay safe.